Well, the next person I'd love to have come up is Steve Barth, who's on our board. You ready? Steve joined our board following the game, so he really stepped it up. And a lot of what we're going to be doing this year, I'm not going to blame on Steve, but I will say that he was one of the instigators. We had gotten our longitudinal study back on what our kids had done over the past 4 years and what their results are, which is what I would show. And so we were talking about having 200 kids this year in the game. And Steve and Mickey, who were there, said, well, why not 2,000? And I just kind of, and then I said, well, okay, why not? So, thanks, Steve. Come on over.
Well, my involvement with Skills for Living is sort of a couple of different things that happened in my life, and I think this is sort of both serendipity and maybe an intersection of life experiences for me. And as you can tell, I'm by far the oldest one speaking here today, so maybe a few more gray hair to go with that. But first of all, I'd like to thank all of you for being here. I think that this is an incredibly important program, and I think that this program has the ability to really cause fundamental change within our city and also elsewhere in the United States. So, I mean, my ideas with Lorraine have they've been all over the board. They've been kind of up and down, and we did have a very interesting lunch one day where we set an objective to significantly grow the program from where it was to where it's going to be next. And I think there's, Lorraine's metric, I think, is that if we can get 1,000 students a year or more trained in Skills for Living, that we can substantially impact what's happening with the dropout rate in our schools. And there's no question that within the city of Houston and the state of Texas, we have a huge issue with that. We have the benefit of a very prosperous economy here, but we have all kinds of social issues that I think, frankly, we're going to have to tackle from the ground up, and we've got to tackle it with education, and we've got to tackle it with core financial skills. So I'll give you a little bit of the history of how I got to this point today. My wife was a reading recovery teacher, and reading recovery is a program where in 16 weeks they can take a child who is a first grader. They do not have learning deficiencies, but they have environmental deficiencies. They don't know how to hold a book. They don't know the letters. They don't know the sounds. And in 16 weeks, you can take that kid and get him to the point that he or she is mainstreamed and is performing at or above the reading level of an equal first grader. What happens to that kid in getting that learning, the ability to read versus not being able to read, is a fundamental separator for that kid for the rest of his life. And I look at Skills for Living in the same context of that and go, this is a fundamental separator that occurs at a point in time when you can still affect that. You know what happens to kids that learn to read? First of all, they stop being a problem. Secondly, they're a lot happier. Thirdly, they teach others. And fourthly, they know the issue of them not being able to learn is no longer an issue for them. And I think that the corollary to that in Skills for Living is we've got to give people the skills to go through their life and be successful, no matter what their income level is. The planning and the process of managing your finances and doing your taxes and all the things that go with that are essentially the same no matter where you end up economically, whether it's the woman that we heard about that's now got a job at $60,000 a year or the woman that's got a job at $145,000 a year. Different sets of parameters that they have to work within, but they still have the same basic requirements. The second thing that happened to me was I was about little over a year ago, I was sitting with my daughter who had graduated from the University of Texas. She had a finance degree from the Macomb School, and frankly, she had been her sorority and her roommate's banker. Okay, she had taken care of everything. She had her own credit card. We told one of the things we did with our kids was we taught them about having a credit card. We made them post a deposit that was the deductible for their car insurance. I mean, some of the things that you have to do as an adult. We took kids that had a fairly privileged lifestyle and said, you got to at least do these things to understand what your operational parameters and requirements are. And so I was real proud that she became an individual that had a great credit rating when she graduated from college, and she had financial skills. Well, what I found out from her, and she came to me and she said, Dad, thank you for doing that. But more importantly, I've got all these friends that have college debt. Their credit is ridiculous. They can't lease an apartment. They're even being questioned, despite the fact that they had fabulous degrees from the University of Texas. Some of them were having an issue getting a job because of their credit rating. And so you go, what's going on here? You know, here's one of the best institutions in the United States, and we're kicking out students that don't have the core fundamentals to operate in life. Okay, so, you know, third intersecting point for me was I was a college dropout. I quit and decided, you know, I didn't need college. I had my own business. I was going to do fine. And, you know, I went back to school. I graduated at age 30 with 3 kids, and that was a real point of accomplishment for me. And it was also a point that made me go, wow, I really had some pretty major screw-ups along the way. I then, at a later point in life, decided that the road to a successful retirement was paved with Enron shares and options. And, you know, not all my doing, but it certainly was another life experience to understand, wow, to go from here to absolutely here with 3 kids in college and to, you know, to bootstrap that again in my life was a learning experience, not one that I want to repeat, but, you know, another point of sort of realization for me of how important it is to always keep your financial planning in perspective. And so when after all of this conversation I had with my daughter last February, about 3 days later I walk in the office and I, like a lot of the other people you've heard today, got an email. And the email was from our company saying, we've decided to put some money behind Skills for Living, and there's a chance for you to volunteer. And it was like, wow, I've got to at least go explore and understand what this is about. So I got involved. The first thing I did was I went and served as a volunteer in the training day, and I was drafted into the audit group. And, you know, actually having to sit down and figure out what are these kids going to audit, and then working with them. I mean, it was a real baptism by fire. But wow, what a great experience to watch kids. And I was just astounded to hear 15-year-old kids that they've got it, man. They've been through these classes, they understand it all. And I think the more astounding thing about it was that here are these, you know, kids that most of them from probably a socioeconomically a lower status from a socioeconomic standpoint, or just a sheer income standpoint, and they've committed 3 weeks of their time in the summertime when they probably could have been working a job to earn money. They've committed to be a part of this program because they were zealots at that point. I mean, they believed that they had made a difference in their life. So then I got to experience the game, and a lot of the experiences you've heard about today are the same things that I experienced, which was the excitement of it, the thrill of watching kids have those eureka moments. So anyway, I'll wrap this up by saying I think this is a great program. It's a massive challenge we have in front of us to keep up with Lorraine and Ken. And we're driving this hard, but it's going to take a lot of effort and a lot of financial support, and it's going to take a lot of, you know, time and contribution from everybody in this room and all of the people that we know that we can influence to either give money, give time, and you know, I want everyone here to know that on a personal level I'm committed to that, and I'm going to do my best to make sure that we have a fabulous outcome for whatever our target number ends up being this year, whether it's 500 or 2,000. I mean, we know for a fact we're going to accomplish 500. I think 500 is a huge step for us. And but it's going to take, and I think 500 becomes the basis for us to learn how we grow this thing to a scalable model both in Houston but elsewhere in the United States. So thank you very much.
Thank you. And Steve, of course. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.